What's going on, Tamers? It's me, Guy, wishing you the best with your EX03 Draconic Whirlpools if you're playing the English version of the game, because that set just came out very recently. If you're playing the JP version of the game, sorry, I got nothing for you. But like I said, Draconic Aurora has released, which means you guys get your hands on a bunch of new archetypes for decks, as well as some support for older decks to bring them up to current standards. There is a small problem, though. Elephant in the room, there's a couple of erratas. When I say a couple, I mean 24. And while 24 erratas does sound like a lot, you can actually categorize these into 4 major categories. The first are going to be egregious erratas, typing erratas, the may affect erratas, as well as just a couple of outliers. After looking over some of the erratas, as well as the way that the game is translated from Japanese into English, a couple of reasons come to mind as to why this has happened. The first is that it seems like, and if I were a betting man, I would definitely put money on this one, either the person who does translations has changed, or the company that they use for translations has changed. It seems like the people who are looking over these don't really have a deep understanding of the if, when, and may rulings of cards. Another thing that happens is whenever you're translating over from Japanese into English, the Japanese version of traits usually have a uniting kanji. For example, the water kanji if you're talking about like aquatic or sea animal. Meanwhile, in English, you lose some of that meaning, or you lose that uniting factor whenever you translate over, right? Like if you take the word aquatic and sea animal, they're not really the same word in English, but in Japanese, the water kanji binds them. And in a lot of cases, they just translated over the most simple form of a word. So for example, if a card relied on the typing for dragon, or the trait for dragon, like the dragon kanji in Japanese, they just took that one kanji and just translated it over into English as dragon, where it could be dragon, ceratopsian, or soar in the case of like dinosaur. And finally, the last bit here, I think that there just should have been one more level of checks within their process to make sure that things really got ironed out. And while there's not many of them, I feel like there are a few really egregious erratas that have taken place as a result of not having that layer in between, the checks and the cards just coming out. And as a result, you just have like different Digivolution costs for some cards. You also just have like different effects for some cards outright entirely. So let's very quickly go over these 4 major types of erratas for the EX03 series and what they should be going forward. The first erratas we're going to cover are the most egregious ones, and these just include outright wrong effects or wrong costs for cards. The first one we're going to talk about here is going to be, unfortunately, the ghost rare for the set, which is Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode, the really nice like old school version of the card. The big change you need to know here is that initially on the card, it will say that you only pay 3 for its Digivolution cost, when that number should be 5, so you can Digivolve from a green or a blue Digimon here for the cost of 5, not 3. Something tells me that somewhere in Bandai there's an Imperial Dramon fan out there trying to just sneak this one past the team. The next egregious errata here is the Growlmon for the set, where his effect right now says on deletion, but it should be when Digivolving. So whenever you Digivolve into Growlmon, you should get the effect of deleting one of your opponent's Digimon 2000 DP or less, and then if you can't do that, both players mill the top 2 cards in their deck. But yeah, you should please keep in mind that this one's pretty egregious, and just looking at the card, you could not tell either way. The next set of erratas is going to be the typing erratas, where there was just a mistranslation over from Japanese. The first one here is going to be for the Dragon type Digimon. The first one on this list is going to be Sunrizamon, where it does just say added 1 Digimon card with Dragon in its traits on the card. It should be read as a Digimon card with Dragon, Soar, or Ceratopsian in its traits among them to your hand, which opens up that card pool pretty widely. This Dragon errata also affects Dorbekmon for the set, where it would normally just say Dragon on the card. It should also say Dragon, Soar, or Ceratopsian. Keep in mind that this errata also extends to his Digicross effect as well, where you can see on the screen right here, he can put these Digimon up under him and then reduce his play cost. The next set of typing erratas is going to affect the aquatic and sea animal Digimon here. The first one going to be Plesiomon for the set. His effect says that you can take a level 4 Digimon with aquatic in its traits in one of your Digimon sources and play it on the field as a new Digimon. However, this should be aqua or sea animal in its traits instead. Keep in mind this errata also affects the super rare Aegis Dramon in the set as well, where it says aquatic, it should say aqua or sea animal in its traits. And the final set of typing erratas affects the angel type Digimon in the set. The first one going to be Patamon here, where normally the card says add 1 yellow card with angel in its traits to your hand. It should say, here we go, angel, cherub, throne, authority, seraph, or virtue, other than 3 great angels in its traits. So kind of a laundry list there, but keep in mind that this does widen the card pool for this card to be used. Keep in mind this same errata does affect the Gatomon for the set as well. The next set of erratas has to do with the use of the words may and by in card effects. For example, whenever you use the word may in a card, it means that whatever you're doing there is optional. For example, you may play this card. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Meanwhile, the use of the word by in a card effect means that that is a cost for some effect, where it says by suspending this Digimon, you can force one of your opponent's Digimon to attack. you have to pay the cost of the buy, and you get the reward of the effect afterward. Again, this is not meant to be a super detailed rulings video, but if you guys have questions below, I'll do my best to answer them in the comments. Also, I don't want to go over every single card that has this errata because we would be here for 45 minutes and nobody wants to do that. I want you guys to play the game rather than having to just watch stuff about rulings, right? That doesn't sound as fun. However, I will post up a picture of all the cards in the set that have this errata somewhere on the screen so you guys can see what those cards are. And if you do want to know more about what these erratas and effects should be, please check out the link in the description below. And the last set of erratas we're going to talk about today are just the miscellaneous leftover ones. For example, things like Baby Domon, where it says that when a Digimon with Dramon or Examon in its name becomes unsuspended, it should say this Digimon, so just this Digimon instead of anyone on the board. There's also Flame Dramon, who says that you can Digivolve with Digimon from the trash by paying their play cost, where it should read their actual Digivolution cost. You have to pay 5 to Digivolve something from the trash. It's just 2 in this case. Keep in mind, Shade Dramon also shares the same errata, where you can just use the Digivolution cost instead of the play cost of the card to Digivolve it. Another one is Mega Seedramon with the use of the word 1 instead of the actual number 1. So pretty small here. Another random one here being V-Dramon, where it says that whenever you would play a 4-grade Dragon's Digimon, it gains Rush. It should say one of those Digimon gains Rush in the case that you play multiple at the same time. So keep that in mind. A really weird one is Wormmon, where I think they just got a little bit too semantic here, where it says that, you know, you can trash one of the cards you draw from the 3 that you reveal on top of your deck, and they just add in such card among them. So I don't know what this is about. It really doesn't change the effect from what's already on the card, but yeah. I guess this is here for posterity's sake, not sure. And the final one we're going to talk about today is Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode. His effect says when Digivolving, or when DNA Digivolving. It should say if DNA Digivolving. I'm not sure of the concrete differences of when and if here and the use of them, but if you guys have some ideas of what this should mean or what the difference here actually is, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to learn. But yeah, keep in mind it should be if DNA Digivolving instead of when DNA Digivolving. And so that's going to be it for the erratas for the EX03 Draconic War set. I hope that Bandai takes this as a learning experience and moves forward with like that extra step in the process to make sure that all their ducks are in a row before they release a set like this again. Also, if you want to learn more about these erratas, I put a link in the description below to find the exact details for each of the cards that I mentioned here today. So please take a look at that, and if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer there. And while this video was unfortunately kind of a downer, I mean, you know, who wants erratas in their card game at all? Card game players don't read enough as it is. I sincerely hope that you guys have fun playing the Draconic War set. I personally had a ton of fun trying out all the different decks, and I hope that you guys had the same experience that I did. Anyway, folks, I'm going to get out of here. Before you get out of here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.